You're live, it says.
So you found us.
What is it trying to tell us?
No strings, no catch. You own everything.
Now stay tuned to Rock Flux.
Here's the weather. Tony Caravan with you. A bright and good morning to you. I'll tell you, in my neck of the woods, it is freezing and miserable. I took a picture of the weather, National Weather Service, and I'm just going to see if I can get a side view of this on the camera here. If you can grab that. You see all that purple and dark blue covering most of the United States? You grab that. See if I can enlarge this a little bit. Without too much glare. Well, anyway, if we scroll here, you'll see that that is 10, 0, or minus 10 degrees, which is basically the major swash of the U.S. And that's today from the good old taxpayer-funded National Weather Service. Pretty crazy. Outside in my neck of the woods, up here in the mid-Atlantic states, here's what my front porch looks like. Check this out. That would be like going down my stairs. That's ice, if you can see that. For anyone new to the program, the reason I'm holding up the phone is I had this program that I actually did buy, this like Wirecast thing or something like that. I bought a while back, and it's supposed to allow me to insert pictures and do this and control all this stuff. But I found that the thing isn't covered, so it's crazy. Covered with this, they want me to upgrade, and then when I went to upgrade, it said you can't. We're no longer upgrading. It's kind of too risky. I just didn't want to take a chance. But I noticed I didn't get any copyright claims for. Anyway, that's what this show is all about. These themes, these things were just. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Anyway, good morning. It's good morning time. And so, as usual, I'm here drinking my caffeine soda pop and presenting. It's Mardi Gras. Today is the 16th of February. Yeah. I don't know what, folks. Pardon me for this. This is another one of a Tony Caravan conventions we do for the show. But a little bit of quick housekeeping. This is when you used to buy software, for those of you who have never seen this kind of thing, to catch using the litter box. And of course, you used to get a CD. Now, this I have still installed on the computer. When you see me facing the right side here, when I do this, good morning, and I'm clicking,
Here's what's happening.
And here's what's happening is that you can't get this stuff anymore. But you paid for it. You bought it. That's the whole thing. You bought it. You own it, And it's like yesterday I also talked about, or in previous shows, I talked about this as my favorite program, Claris Homepage, and it was available for Windows and Mac. And I still use it on this other computer over here that I guess I could take, yeah, maybe I could give you my morning get up today. I should do that. My iPhone just, I've got one of these iPhone cases. I remember I don't have the iPhone service. So this is the Tony Caravan morning show. So you get like part just of my life. It takes a while to get, to begin it. I don't know if you saw that, the title card on this whole thing, but this will give you an idea of the grand scheme of things here. Let's just take a picture and put it up. And so you can see, I mean, it's just a blur on this side, but that's, I wish it wouldn't have done that. Geez, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. What will these phones do next? Anyway, you could actually see the goofball, holding up the camera on the one side, and that just rectangular white thing on this side is the other monitor that's hooked up to an old G5 computer, and that's where I keep my sound effects. And I also have programs. Boy, the cat's doing a number on that box. But that's where I have programs like these, which I purchased, and I still use. That cat is tormenting me, is going to be scratching in that litter box during this entire show. They do this stuff. I can't stop the show. I'm live. Please. Hey, you done a good job. Great. Congratulations. You done good. You done very good. It's okay. You did good. That much scratching only means one thing. So if you're a cat owner, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, you did good. You did good. And let's get back to the show. So, anyway, I found this thing. There was a couple of things I was talking about yesterday, but I think the weather's the big thing right now. I don't know if you know it. Like down in Texas, they've had the same problems they're having in Germany and in other parts of Europe, where the windmills have actually, it's so cold that this year, and this has happened before in the past, but it just doesn't get reported because they're trying to push this global warming thing. But the planet has been cooling like consistently for the past like decade. That Al Gore thing, like, it just didn't come to fruition, but they pretended it is the UN IPCC, and now this great World Economic Forum is talking about it. And it's like talking about, I did in a video much earlier where I showed a Time magazine from the 70s where they said the great cooling. It's like these people just pick these things up. They get mass news coverage. The reporters are just, if you ever, I forget the name of that movie where the guy who became the main anchor, they found he was just a moron. He literally was a moron. He didn't know what the heck he was doing. It's kind of like that movie Being There, where with Peter Sellers, where he, was basically by the end of the movie, and it's not a spoiler alert. The movie's from like 50 years ago, 40 years ago, where he was eventually up for vice president. Kind of has like, it's interesting. If you watch Being There now and think about what's going on in Washington. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that this stuff's not getting reported. I mean, they've got snow in the deserts. Europe is covered with ice and snow. The U.S., I showed you the map. We're freezing. And this isn't a one-shot deal. It's just been like this nonstop. Last year, this year. Well, I found this thing. This is an old book. This was a gift by a friend of mine. She doesn't really watch these shows too much, but if she does, she gave me this years ago, back in the day. It's a book of things. There's all kinds of weird stuff in here that I really don't, need. But I mean, how to dig a well, make a barrel, carve a totem pole. And that's interesting. sweep a chimney, make soap. It's just like all these things people used to do. I don't have the greatest lighting in here. I'm also not really a Steelers fan necessarily, since I don't really support the NFL. But there's things in here about seabirds and all this other kind of stuff. And this is how to forecast the weather. And there's some interesting stuff in here that it isn't only birds that predict the weather. Animals and plants of all kinds react to changes in atmospheric pressure. And that's why older people, like they say their arthritis or certain things like kick up or bother them. It's because, high pressure, low pressure, and it's just enough pressure because, we're all part of this ecosystem. We're just creatures on this thing, just like the plants get their energy from the sun. So do we. That's why I take D3 in the wintertime, and so should you. It's a great immune system booster. And the sun is a great thing. But anyway, it says, look out for these signs that a storm is brewing. Horses running fast, pigs gathering, leaves and straw. I guess pigs gathering leaves and straw. Sorry about that. I can hardly see this. I have no light down here. Flowers closing up, wolves howling, cows lying down. I remember that one from a kid. Refusing to go out to pasture. Crickets singing louder than usual. Spiders coming down from their webs. Porpoises sporting and playing. Well, flies biting more. Bees refusing to swarm and staying close to the hive. Rain is on the way if salt gets sticky and gains in weight. Your hair curls at the end, knots get tighter and ropes shorten. Pretty interesting stuff. But it's like you kind of tell. And there's other things about like clouds. If circles form around the moon, it will rain soon. It refers to a halo that can be seen around the sun or moon when the light is refracted by ice crystals that are present high in the atmosphere. I know there was a lot of talk about these halos we've been seeing, and it's interesting, because with this geoengineering that's going on, some people, don't want to accept that there's geoengineering, but you could just research it. Like I say, these things that a lot of people like say put off to be tinfoil hat type of things or conspiracy theory, that kind of nonsense. In today's world, half of these companies that are doing this stuff, they literally have websites and like PowerPoint presentations that potential clients who want to utilize their services, can go. It's just like the Great Reset I keep trying to tell people in the World Economic Forum. They have an official website. You could go to it and read exactly what they're planning to do. They don't hide it. And if you watch the financial stations like Bloomberg and CNBC and Fox Business and stuff, they cover that stuff in a positive way because that's their thing. These crystals form high in cirrus and cirrus clouds and often precede an advancing low pressure system. But what's interesting about that, those halos around the sun, and I photographed that, and I have some that I posted, I guess, in different areas, is that it's also when they're doing this, releasing these particles from planes, geoengineering, chemtrails, people call it, and stuff like that. But what they're really doing is they're releasing various particulate matter in their warped mind to cool the earth. It's like as if you told somebody, it's like if you told somebody a lie about a thing. Like you said something's going to happen and you need to do this to prepare for it. And the thing that they were doing to prepare for it was counterproductive, you know, to what was really going to come down the pike. You know, that's the scary part. So my thing is that with a lot of this geoengineering, you have to wonder, you know, are they exacerbating what we know to be fact and truth, that the sun and the magnetic field of the earth is weakening, and that the earth is in a 400-year and longer cycle of cooling, and that we're more likely to be facing crop shortages and things like that. And so the idea of geoengineering because Al Gore or some, you know, some crazy, you know, guy in Brussels, you know, all these unelected bureaucrats and who don't even have degrees in, you know, in climate science, meteorology, or anything of the sort. They're not even scientists. It's like Bill Gates is not a virologist. Didn't even graduate college, right? What does he know? What does he know about viruses or any of that stuff and vaccines? He knows nothing other than he is invested in them, so he makes a profit. And so that's when I talk about the corporatocracy. I kind of look weird today, you know, washed out. I guess I don't know. Sorry about that. Vanity. Night and day, you torture me. So that brings me. So it brings me to this next thing. And I don't normally wear glasses, and that's the thing I guess bothers me. I see myself as a person that I'm not. And you can't believe how dark it is here. It looks like it's bright, but it's like so dark, and this type is so small. But these people, when I talk about the corporatocracy and the old world order, the people taking over things, in charge of stuff, there's an interesting thing I found in this back in the day book. Address royalty. Meeting royalty can be daunting if you don't know what to call them. Today, a lapse in etiquette will not only land you in any serious trouble, but in the days gone by, you could have lost your life, been imprisoned for an incorrect form of address. So, listen to some of this nonsense. That's why I have to laugh. I was getting into this comically the other day, and then I remember I had this book. I didn't even know this was in it. Of course, the king or queen is your majesty, and the prince or princess is your royal highness. We all know that kind of stuff. The children of the prince and princess are also your royal highness, which I wasn't really aware of. The duke is your grace or duke. The duchess is your grace or duchess. Your grace. Think about that. And you're supposed to, when meeting a member of royalty, you should perform a brief neck bow or small curtsy as a mark of respect. You must not turn your back on them. Now think about this. These are people, and this is going on in the 21st century. Right now, this is going on in many parts of the world. I mean, we're familiar in English. This is an English-speaking TV show. So, we're familiar with the UK. But, I mean, do you see, like I try to say, do you see what's right in front of your eyes? All right. And the absurdity of it. The Marquis is my lord. The Marchese is my lady. The Earl is my lord. A Countess is also my lady. And a Viscount is my lord. I'm not sure what a Viscount is, really. And there's a Viscountess, which is also my lady. A Baron is my lord, and the Baroness is my lady. My lord, my lady, your highness, your grace, curtsy and bow. Don't turn your back. Look like this stupid guy. Take your hat off. You give me a break. These are human beings, people. Like I love how people talk about, equality and all these kinds of things, It's just insane. But then they go and do that.
Good morning.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right. I will get this show on the road. I found a book by McLuhan that I've been carrying around with me for decades and decades and decades. And there's a little blurb in there about the Emperor's New Clothes, which I often talk about, and just tying into that whole my lord and lady thing. The Emperor's New Clothes. And that's the whole thing. You know, they see this right before their eyes. And it's like, my lord and lady, your grace. Oh, your grace. Forgive me, your grace. And, you know, meanwhile, this person is nobody. They're just a person. They're just a human being. And it takes a child, I guess, to have like an open mind, if there are any children left who have been brainwashed by the education system, to basically, you know, point out, like in the Emperor's New Clothes, that, hey, you know, they're just people, you know. I don't know. It's a real mind blower to me, you know. And it's just like all this other stuff that's going on right now in this country.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
You know, I mean, the fear-mongering that's going on has gotten, you know, has reached epic proportions, as they say. I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, and 3 a.m. So I have that like half, like almost feeling of a hangover, but I'm not hungover. I didn't drink or anything yesterday. I do this to clean my mustache. Occasionally I might do it to hide a belch or something, which we don't want to do in public, especially if we're around my lord, my lady. Your grace, you'll forgive me, your grace. Oh, your majesty, you know. Give me a break. These people think they own the planet, they own the world. And all these people kowtow to them and curtsy, and, you know, you've got to be kidding me. And then these unelected bureaucrats that seem to have taken everything completely and totally and absolutely over. But as you could see from earlier, let's get back, you know, to the, you know, what I was talking about briefly before, and that is the weather. That, yeah, this country's like, we're freezing right now. It's, you know, remember, and if you remember the last couple of years, like people keep, that, you know, they say that people today have the attention span of a goldfish, which is, I don't know, it's measured in seconds, right? I mean, that's really disgraceful that we're going so backwards. You know, remember that band Devo? Like Devo stood for de-evolution. We were de-evolving. Like people forget about that too, or they just weren't around for it. But, you know, that whole concept was so like right on and like literally 30 years ahead of its time. That's the problem. It's like this show's probably, you know, this is a couple of years ahead of its time, because a lot of things I'm saying, people are still caught up in politics, the pop culture. You're not going to find any politics here. I'm not going to talk about any politics. I will criticize the concept of politics, the cult of personality, and politics as pop culture. I will criticize those things in general, you know, the broad strokes, as I say. But you will not hear me doing anything other than, you know, a slight mention of a current event that, you know, is free and clear of any term of service violation. But that's not the reason why I'm not saying it. You know, I'm a principled person. I would rather, you know, go down, you know, with the truth as opposed to conforming for any reason, any way, shape, or form, conforming. But, you know, I think there's a step I keep talking about. Hey, where's our 1400? And it looks like maybe there's some movement on that, you know, yesterday. So keep your fingers crossed. You know, I could sure use that 1400. I don't know about you. Like I say, if there's commercials on this live broadcast, I don't make a penny on it because I'm not monetized. I'm just trying to push my book here, Codex, in the back. It's hard to see right now, but it's a good book. And it's a primer for watching Tony Caravan live, the morning show. Visit my website too. And sites Google, there's a link in the description box, as they say. I think you might have to click on show more to see that link. But if you go there, you'll there's links to a couple of my beat poetry tracks, books, and t-shirts, such as Everything You Know Is Wrong and You Don't Know What You Don't Know. I try to put those. That's why at the beginning of the video it says paid promotion or something. It's not really a paid promotion. It's just me trying to, tell you to listen to my music or buy a book or buy a t-shirt so I could keep this, live TV show going, and maybe buy some software that I could actually don't have to hold up an iPhone. But I don't mind because, this is raw. It's crude, but it's, let's face it, it's TV, and aren't we de-evolving really if you think about it? I was just talking to somebody, yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, who was, somebody was going for a master's degree, and who was talking about that she was preparing one of her papers for a class on a laptop, but that she preferred to use to put it together, to put her presentation or paper together. She preferred to use a different program that's on an older machine, Mac, that she has. And so she has to use her laptop because that, here, it's the way it is. It's like me with why I have an old computer that does all these cool things, I could play all these really neat sound effects, and I could do 10,000 things. I could build a website. I can use, Adobe Photoshop because I purchased Photoshop. I showed you before. I have the Microsoft Office. I could use all those programs and all that kind of stuff. But the thing about it is,
you've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda. It's just what you need.
The world's greatest everything.
Presenting the world's greatest everything. That used to be the intro to my old Tony Caravan live show back in the 90s. It started out as a lounge show, and then I started to do this this kind of thing. Yeah, like I said, I've been podcasting before anybody knew what a pod was. A pod was probably something to do with a plant or something. Excuse me. But anyway, so she had to use two computers. I have to use two computers. All right. Because my new one, which isn't new, which is, I think it's almost 10 years old. Is it 10 years old now or 7 or 8 years old? I don't know what it is. All I know is a couple $1,000s worth, the computer, because I used to use it when I was doing a magazine. And my other computer crashed and I had to buy this. So I can go live with this. I'm using Chrome. I'm obviously, the internet works just fine on it, blah, blah, blah. But because I discontinued that extortion from Adobe paying their $50 a month for their cloud service for the courtesy of using Photoshop, if I want to use Photoshop, I have to go to my old computer and use the Photoshop that I had purchased like 15, 20 years ago. Like I say, I own the program. It's totally legitimate. There's no, it's not like I'm not trying to get around anything. It's the same like me, like I said. That's why I do this. Like I said, it's that whole idea. People you say a thing and people, they doubt you. they think, oh, he's full of it. It's like, no, I got the program, I got the boxes, I got the catalogs, I got the I got the DVDs, the CDs, the digital copies. I paid the price. I paid a fortune. I must have spent $20,000 over the years in software. I was always the guy, people would be trading fonts and, and even friends, I'd have software, and people be asking me, hey, give me a copy of this, give me a copy of that and stuff. I was always the guy who did purchased it. I purchased most of my stuff, unless it was like freeware or stuff floating around that, whatever. And you don't even see much of that. And now I would highly recommend against anyone using freeware or these cheapo programs you buy that pretend they do a thing for $19.95 or some kind of like package deal, because that's like, those are the things where they've implanted viruses or that, are set up to mess up your computer, get into your computer and, yank data out of there so they could, data mine you. You got to watch out for that stuff. But so that was the idea, is this de-evolution thing is what I'm trying to get at. And I've been confronted with that problem. And here's somebody else confronted with that problem, which was telling me yesterday. And I hear it all the time from people. And my response is always the same thing. It's the year 2021. And, you have all these software companies, what we call big tech, that thousands and thousands of employees, many of them making six figures, They have they call them campuses, where they all work. And, they've got things like sushi, that they could just have for lunch. They got a Starbucks right on their own campus and stuff. Crazy, some of them, they could bring their pet to work with them. They have these meetings, where they sit around and fantasize and about the future and they're all so full of themselves. Like, look what we're doing and look what our next gen this is going to be, or next gen that. And it's like, you look at a company like Apple and you think, and you go back to like when Steve Jobs was there, and he was no saint or any of that stuff. But he was a free thinker, and, he pushed people to the limit, and he was a perfectionist in that way. But, like I say, everybody, none of us are perfect. But at least, he was the one more thing guy. And so every year, that was his thing. He wanted to push the envelope one step beyond. And nobody's doing that anymore. Instead, we seem every year to be sinking, going back. We're de-evolving. Now, this is driving tech, any of these technocrats crazy, me saying this. Because in their minds, they're saying, what are you talking about? Look at this. And look at you're broadcasting live and stuff. And I'm thinking, I've been broadcasting live since the 90s, and I was doing videos using Macs in the 90s. Granted, the resolution has gotten much better and things like that. But, I was definitely broadcasting live audio, podcasting before they even invented the iPod. That's a fact. In effect, one could claim that I invented podcasting, or the concept there over the internet as a radio person and other radio people, because we were familiar with it. But I've been doing these kind of video things for the longest time. So the idea is that, we're de-evolving. We're just, the technology is it's what I call the veneer, everything's for show. They're making the GUI, the graphic user interface. All right. It's a GUI. It used to be the word they used to use in the 90s when people just were learning HTML and we're trying to create web pages and stuff like that. You don't hear that word at all anymore. The GUI. And that's what this is. That's what you're looking at. Now, if you're looking at this on a smartphone, that's ridiculous. They say, that's the other thing. The smartphone kind of, there's so many negatives that came out of the smartphone, or like what I call, mirror, mirror on the wall, the black mirror that they used to warn about, in medieval times, the witches. They'll burn you, witch. She's a witch. Be aware of the black mirror. And now we have the black mirror. How reflective that is. It's the black mirror. Yeah. And people just can't let go of it. They're precious. Me precious. It's pretty funny and scary at the same time, but not for somebody like me, because I'm free of all that. And that's what this show's about. Helping you free yourself from the shackles of the corporatocracy. And not being, sucked into the cult of personality or the politics of politics as pop culture. And these repetitive themes and these things I say every time I'm on the air are important because I'm trying to drive that home. I'm just trying to present it in different ways in different things. Walmart fashion. I never bought a single thing from Walmart fashion related. I think I might have bought a pair of shoes, $10 sneakers once online. And I get that spam. Ooh. You hear that? That's a plow truck plowing. You should see what it looks like outside. I showed you those stairs in front of my place. It was like raining yesterday and then iced up overnight. And I don't know. So it's like, there's like this, I wouldn't say an inch, but maybe a half inch, but it could be as much as an inch. And I have to walk in about 2 hours. I have to walk down because I'm still doing this thing that people who are regular followers of the show, I'm doing this, helping, this guy's out of town, open his, get his register and his, do that kind of stuff for him because, he just has regular employees and I guess he wants somebody a little more responsible to count the cash and prepare the deposits and get the place ready for the day. But I've got to, it's like a mile down the road. And I don't drive anymore. I got rid of my car. Why should I? Was only using it once or twice a month to go to the grocery store or to pick up something, And I said, the heck with that. Why should I, pay a car, have to maintain a car every year? The car the cars today, they're not like in, the cars I had in the past that you could fix, repair, or find somebody. It was a repair beyond your capabilities. There was always some other guy who could say, oh, yeah. I know what that is. Which is those days are long gone. And then you got insurance and the price of gas is going to go up this year. You watch. You see what I would say by Memorial Day, after Memorial Day, because the price of heating fuel is already starting to jump because of all the things they're doing. And this green energy thing with all these things throughout the world, the US and Europe, or all these useless windmills and stuff are just frozen solid. They won't work. They were actually, I saw one picture there of a helicopter de-icing the blades on a windmill. Now think about that. This is this green energy. And so they got this helicopter that's running on, petrochemicals, fuels, de-icing a windmill. You know, so yeah, you better make sure you keep enough caches of fossil fuels, my friends. I mean, that picture, should have been the front page of every newspaper and should have been the lead story on every television newscast to wake up people and tell the truth. And the idea that, I bet you that thing is hidden from most people. That what they're trying to do is only going to, we're facing food shortages. This is a lie, Then I saw this other photo, because there's people that are really concerned about this. I mean, I'm concerned about it, and that's why I'm telling you this. But I'm not like, I'm not obsessed with it, and I'm not going to, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you the truth and bring this out to you. Well, excuse me. There's people that are studying this stuff, and so the people that are taking pictures of how these windmills catch fire, how they're bird graveyards. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but it's the truth. Just the birds hit them. But one of the latest ones that I've seen that I hadn't, some photographers have been going around, and they've been seeing that these blades are filled with bugs, like a bugs die on your windshield. So it's not only the birds that are getting killed, because this is unnatural, right? But you know how many insects there are, and these things are all, these things are in areas where there's tons of insects, shorelines where there's mosquitoes and all kinds of gnats and things like that, or they built them, where they just leveled what was nice forest land or pasture land, or beautiful valleys and stuff are filled with these ugly things, right? Well, there's, what's there? What's predominantly there? Bugs. Probably one of the reasons, and it's the birds, because birds eat bugs, that's their primary meal, bugs. Well, all these dead bugs are coated all over the blades. You can't see it from a distance. So these photographers have gone in and, taken these photos of these blades, all over the place. And what happens is, it's literally thick. It's like, and you have to understand, we're talking about aerodynamics here. I mean, the whole concept of a windmill is like the reverse of a propeller, So rather than propelling a plane, or something, it's, the wind is moving the propeller to turn a generator, and then that generator in turn. So it's a reverse of, instead of using electricity to turn, the propeller, the wind is being used. That's the concept, to turn the generator, and then that is supposed to be fed back into the system. Now, of course, ever since they've, these things were subsidized by government, and to the tune of millions of dollars. I think some of them cost about several $1,000,000 each to build, and the government subsidized most of that. There were outright grants to do it, or tax, 100% tax incentives. In other words, it was like they did that years ago with the Hummer or something too, like that. Like you could write off 100% of the purchase of the vehicle. This is what lobbyists do. Well, anyway, I guess GE, which was, I think, one of the main manufacturers of windmills, somehow got that through Congress. Like I told you, it's the lobbyists that write the bills. It's not the, it's not Congress people. What do they know? Or was the AOC? What do they know? For these people, they don't know anything. Excuse me. They're bartenders or waitresses, or, they had a job, just some job before they came there. Some may have even been a lawyer or something like that, but it's not like they specialized in, in electromagnetic, power generation or something like that. They don't know anything like that. It's like, or they don't know anything about virology, or anything. They're not trained in that. They're just people, right? Politicians. We call them cardboard candidates, And so all these bugs are reducing the aerodynamics substantially of these things. And these things are catching fire. These things need maintenance, all right? And nobody really wants to claim ownership so much of them because the way the finance system works, they already got their free money or their tax break for it, and they kind of they sell on the market, right? And so these things might be owned by, somehow went through the Wall Street system, the investment banker system, however. It's like, people don't know, like when you have a mortgage on your house, people who have bigger houses, that mortgage gets traded and traded and traded and traded. And it's like, you don't even know who's holding what they call the paper on your property anymore because it's traded. They even trade birth certificates. That's a real scary thing. That's a rabbit hole if you ever want to go down. I'm not going to get into that because it's, some things are just so surreal that, it's beyond bothering trying even to realize how sick this corporatocracy and these wacko bureaucrats, mostly old world order Europeans, really are. But yeah, they base a value, on human capital and the potential, so that your birth certificate, the birth certificate of people, is considered the value of that individual over their life has a value and is traded, in this global, socioeconomic, geopolitical, word IMF, banking, World Economic Forum, Davos set, crazy corporatocracy, puppeteer world. I mean, that's the world we live in right now. Okay. And somebody looking at this for the first time is like, what? That's crazy talk. It's like, yeah, that's it. And instead, everybody's wasting their time. I can't believe I have to type in YouTube to get to this point, to get to the YouTube live thing. And so what pops up when you type YouTube in is like the opening screen, the home YouTube screen. And there's these rows of videos, right? And then I click go live thing and get out of there as quickly as possible. But what, you can't help but see, I don't know, I probably, because I have a pretty big monitor, I might get 4 or 5 rows of various of those little title cards, like my title card today, which shows that I was up at 356. I forget what it is. Actually, I have it right here. I'm curious myself, and just click on it just for the hell of it. 355. Yeah, check that out. So you got to get up early to do the morning show. But they're all they're all political. Like they're still talking. It's like all this stuff. And I'm going, why? Like, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, watch yesterday's show, because I think I got into it. And I'm not going to repeat that again. But I think I got into that, a good explanation on the absurdity of it, how these people are nobodies. They're nobodies. They really are nobodies. Politicians are nobodies, and they have no control over your life whatsoever. You think they do. They want you to think that they do. And the media wants to play that, that game. But home, you don't play that. Forget it. They have no power over you. It's an illusion. It's an illusion of power. Remember, people in power, when you have only several thousand people, okay, in the grand scheme of things, you take politicians and then major CEOs and boards of directors, you know, they number in maybe several thousand in a country like the United States. Okay, forget about, you know, the pencil pushers, low level bureaucrats, and all that stuff. They're meaningless. They do nothing. It's just like the service. You know, the average grunt has following a chain of command, and whoever is in command, and however that chain of command comes down, you know, they have to do what they have to do, and you can believe in whatever you want to believe and all of that sort of thing, but in the end, you either do what you're told to do, or you're court-martialed, you know, or dishonorably discharged, you know, or whatever, you know. So, but it's the same with everything else, you know. And so how do a couple of thousand people make these dictates, you know, these rulings over 350 million people? Okay, a couple thousand people, say 5,000 if you want, say 10,000. All right, say 30,000 if you just want to be crazy, but it's not. It's like several thousand. All right, of people, of between politicians and corporatocracy type of people, you know, CEOs, very wealthy board of director types of people, and you know, that you know, heads of certain things. Okay, they number in the thousands. That's it. And you got a country like the United States of America that has 350 million people, probably. Some they say 330 million, but it's like, you know, for years they were saying the population of the planet was 6 billion. Then suddenly somebody, like it was me, I think I was going like, you know, it's 7 billion, right? Well, now, you know, now they're waking up to it, and then they're saying 7.5 billion. It's probably up to close to 8 billion. I mean, they have these little counter things you can go to on the website, you know, on a population website, but it's just, you know, it's a guesstimate. They don't know. They don't know how many people are being, you know, born in, you know, New Guinea, you know, or some, you know, Chile, you know. They don't know. They don't know how many people are in the United States. You know, that was that whole thing about they were having problems about the with the census last year, the big controversy. They didn't want to have people. They were afraid that they would scare people if they asked them if they were a citizen, you know. So we don't know. I mean, you see these, what they call caravans, you know, my namesake, you know, you see all these people coming in, and there's people coming in all the time. You don't know, millions. I think we legally accept a million immigrants a year in the United States. Like, the media never reports that. Like, we're one of the most generous countries when it comes to accepting legal immigrants. That means if you literally go to one of those dozens of entry points around the United States, which we do have, you don't have to climb over. These people are climbing over fences and doing weird stuff like that. There's actually dozens of legal entry points. And you know, and you can apply for citizenship. And we have all these embassies and all this kind of stuff. And we accept like 1 million a year. You know, you can do the research on that yourself. And you know, that's pretty good odds, you know, of getting into the country. So the question is, you got to wonder, why are people trying to sneak in when a country, when there's that many? It'd be different if we were only letting in like 10,000 people a year, or 100,000, or even 500,000. But the idea that we legally accept 1 million people a year, I'd say if I were living in Honduras, or I was living somewhere else, and I wanted to come to the United States, I'd go get the paperwork and you know, and take my chances, because there's a good chance you'll get in. You know, then maybe if you got turned down, then maybe you might sneak over the fence or under the fence or whatever the heck they do. I don't know. But get back to it. So yeah, my guesstimate is that there's probably about 350 million people in the United States right now, bodies. All right. And there's maybe 3,000 to 5,000 power broker, megalomaniacs, politicians, and big tech and big corporate types, control freaks, my lord, my lady, your highness type of people think they command respect because they got elected to office or they're the CEO of a company, right? And they command, right, that you do that, that you do this thing, I mean, it's funny. You're funny if you fall for that. You're funny if you're watching TV and you've got some idea and you're still caught up in the cult of personality of somebody, or you think that politics is any politician, that the politicians, that the president of the United States, the Congress, senators and congressmen aren't on the lowest rung, okay? That there are so many levels above them, all right, that it's unbelievable. And if you don't know that, well, you're lost, because these are crazy times. These are tumultuous times. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pike in a very quick manner. Things happening daily, weekly, monthly. This by the end of the year. Just to get into this climate thing. So what I'm trying to say is, so these people, they have to deceive you, and it's like the kings in the castle. They have to do things that are overreach, that are very I guess the word today is optics, that have like very strong optics to fearmonger, to make you be afraid of them, and to demonstrate their power over you. Because how else? It's like the little king in the castle, right? This king and, his court, and whatever, his vassals or what, all this weird stuff. We're back into the feudalism system, But so, they put their castle in their moat, and then they get these knights and, and conscription armies and things like that. But the idea is that they're scared, to death of the people, because they make, so when a person, when you have one of these like William Wallace type things, like that Mel Gibson movie, when you have someone that somehow gets people, riled up or says no, right? Well, they have to make a an example of that person, and in those old days they would literally like disembowel them in public, really to show you, don't you dare not curtsy, don't you disrespect my lord and my lady, blah blah blah. But yet at the same time, like in our country, we talk of freedom, right? As if we have freedom. It's like I was saying yesterday too. The United States of America no longer exists. Just like Western civilization has fallen. And someone new to this, discovering this, is going, what? What are you talking? You're crazy. I'm turning this off. Well, you shouldn't have turned it off. I hope you did. Turn it back on. Tell that person to turn it off, turn it back on. It's not the I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again, because I do these things. I jackhammer certain concepts over a period of time until they sink in. And also in case new people, because I have such low viewership at this point. But I think this show is going to be big in a couple of months. That's why I don't mind that these early shows are a little bit cruder. I'm focusing on the content, what I say, not necessarily the technology. I'm not worried about wowing you with, look how I could do this. I have some well-produced production shows. If you go back a couple of weeks, you'll see slides coming up, and I have show intros and all that kind of stuff. I have that capability of doing it, but it was taking like 4 hours. One day, the thing that drove me off the deep end was that one day it took over 6 hours between recording the show, editing the show, formatting the show, the format of the file, then uploading the show. It took like over 6 hours to do the morning show. So the morning show was on at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, right now it's 5:39 a.m. This is the morning show, and it's live, which means when I'm done, and it's this show, you could watch this show live, but someone can also watch it at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. It's the morning show. So that's why I'm doing this, and I'm not so worried about all the, the glitter and gloss and the strings and mirrors and stuff. But we'll eventually do that. But yeah, so people have to understand that, they're just trying to spread fear mongering so that they can get away with the things they're doing and keep people from questioning them and questioning the reality of it. And so when I say there's no United States of America anymore, the fact of the matter is, all you have to do is think about it. Like I say, see the forest for the trees. There's a garbage truck outside. There's always something going on. So united is the key word there. Okay, that's the operative word. Now, that this country is not united, right? I don't think there's a single person in this country that will argue that point. Nobody will argue that point. We just saw a crazy political circus occur, last week. Several months ago, our election was a political circus that showed deep division, right? And over the past 4 or 5 years, it's been the same way. But then again, the people are just obsessed with the pop culture of the current times. But, you could go back 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, 16 years, 20 years, 24 years, 28 years, 32 years, right? This hasn't been the United States of America, all right, in a long time. And the powers that be, they love watching this country be divided, and they are pushing it. They are pushing division. So you say, but we can we need, we can do this. We can come together and we could find common ground. And no, you got the coastal states, right? The red and blue states, right? Like I said yesterday, you got Texas, California, or Texas and Florida, and then you get California and New York, just to name those. These are like complete polar opposites, ideologically, politically, socially, right? I mean, you got the Pacific Northwest, which is like basically anarchy. They don't even want to be a part of the government. They're anarchists. They're still protesting and burning up there. They're not even into they're not pro the current administration any more than they were pro the previous one. People don't understand that. I'm going to apologize for that. I'm a human being. It's the morning show. I'm drinking a carbonated beverage at 5:43 in the morning, to wake me up and to get through this program. So, yeah, the United States of America no longer exists. You have states in North America that are being run by various factions, political factions, certain ideologies. But even within those states, you have, conflicting forces, and people. You know, the media, you have, you know, no matter what you look at, you know, you look at the media and you've got, you know, this media that is, and this media, right? And obviously they all have viewers. So the viewers of this group of stations versus this group of stations, well, all their viewers, they obviously are opposed to one another, you know? So there's no United States of America. It's like, you know, it's disunited states, geographically situated in the North American continent that's being held together by dictates, you know, basically things. The Constitution doesn't exist anymore. You know, the terms of service have superseded the U.S. Constitution, and no one challenges that. You know, like no one has challenged that. Well, people have said it. I'm saying it, but it doesn't make a difference, right? People protest. Like I say, protests are a waste of time, an exercise of futility. I am completely against any kind of protest whatsoever, because it does nothing. All it does is give the media free content, something to cover, and then they can opine about for several days after, right? I'm against any kind of thing like that, right? So, yeah, there are people like me and others, and people say these things, you know, that, you know, call out, you know, the fact that the Constitution is no longer, you know, being respected or used. That, you know, but nothing's being done about it. It's too late. See, that's the thing. And that's what this show, and that's what we're going to explore over the coming weeks and months and years, hopefully, is how to live in a world that's a corporatocracy, that no longer is a collection of people and nations and countries with constitutions and, and cultures, different cultures. You know, there was a time where we used to celebrate our differences, right? But you know, everything today is being forced. It's I'll coin a thing here. It's forced homogeny, right? They're trying. You know, you have whoever's the powers that be are trying to force their ideology, their culture, to create some homogeneous, one way of living, right? As opposed to us having the celebration of different cultures and different people. See, they prefer to pit, one group against another, so there's either fear mongering or hatred or violence, things that should be abhorrent to any individual out there. And instead of saying, instead of us looking and celebrating culture, and I mean celebrating culture in every way, from the simplest ways to the more I guess, well, not complex, but what I'm trying to say is that when I was a kid, I grew up in an area that was like highly ethnic, because it was the coal region, and it was on the eastern part of Pennsylvania. I no longer live there. I haven't lived there in years, many, many years, 25 or more years. Okay. I don't live there anymore. And that place has changed, like every place has changed, because this country's become, it is homogenized, but it's just like New York, Brooklyn, and places like that. And I've lived up there too as well. There was, the idea is that you had many people come into the country, migrate into the country from various cultures. All right. And with that, they brought their traditions, their beliefs, their food, their way of dressing, their way of talking, their music. I mean, everything, art, the whole 9 yards. And I could remember in the summer just an example, and this is just one example. There are dozens and dozens of examples, but just to highlight this without having to have a show go on forever. I remember in the summertime there used to always be these picnics, and my family was, we were very open-minded and had friends, embraced all the cultural diversity of the region in which we lived. Okay. So there would be a Bavarian festival at this place. I think it was called Lakewood Park or something like that. Every summer. And of course, my dad was a beer drinker. I'm a beer drinker now, but I mean, that Bavarian festival was like, they had the tables laid out just like over in Germany, right? And the German bands and and the whole regalia, the girls with the pushed up, bras and carrying, the big, multiple big glasses of beer. And it was a Bavarian festival. And I remember going that, and they had stuff for kids to do, but my dad was there, basically to sit along, those long tables and drink. He was a beer drinker, and I guess my mom was the designated driver. And there were, like I said, there were things it was called Lakewood Park, so there was things for kids to do. I guess there were rides and stuff, and away from the beer, the beer garden, And I remember that, I remember that clearly, because I remember there was so much happiness there. So I don't remember it because of the beer necessarily. I just remember everybody was happy. The kids were happy and the adults were happy. It wasn't like an angry thing. There was no fighting. People weren't getting drunk and punching each other out or something like that. No. This was like a beautiful celebration of, at a German beer garden, okay? Bavarian festival. Then I can remember going to the Polish Day picnic at some grove. I forget the name of that grove. And at that place, it was the same thing. They had, they had their beer pavilions there too. But they had, all these Polish women, the older ladies, and they were making pierogies, halukis, all of these great ethnic foods, right? And nothing like the way those women, from what they would call the old country. I mean, it's so hard to find that, and of course, Mrs. T's pierogies, is from the eastern. That's an eastern part of Pennsylvania. That's where they come from. They're they're the closest to authenticity you can get in a pierogi. And there was the Italian festival, and you just go right down the line. I went to St. Patrick's grade school, and so they had Irish Day picnics, and St. Patrick's Day was a celebration in the town. That we had a St. Patrick's Day parade, and again, of course, there was one of the particular fire companies had was the main headquarters where the parade ended, and that's where the beer that's where the main bar was set up, and there was dancing and Irish music. And I could just go on and on with every, Lithuanian Day, anything you could imagine, right? The celebration, and not everyone at, obviously the St. Patrick's Day was a great celebration of Irish tradition and mostly Irish people in a sense, but that wasn't the crowd. It wasn't all Irish people. It was the town celebrating St. Patrick's Day and going out and watching the parade and drinking green beer and listening to Irish music and dancing the jig. I mean, it was real. I looked, it was great. And it was the same with every one of those other things. It's like, yes, it was predominantly, run and say populated by the particular culture that was being celebrated that day, but the rest of the town was involved. And that's what I'm trying to say. So we celebrated cultures. And again, this goes, it doesn't worry. It's the same in, it depends on your area, and there are areas in, they've done these things in Brooklyn and in New York City, and there would be, African-American celebrations and Latino cultural celebrations, and the same thing with the foods and the dress and the music and people in the streets, Puerto Rican Day. I mean, it was like you looked forward to those things. It's what made America America. Our diversity, our cultural, diversity. We didn't try to say, oh, everyone must be exactly the same way, or that this group is being, whatever. We were long over that. In other words, it's not to say that the past wasn't filled with injustice and even horrors. Okay? But, this idea of,
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Good morning.
and that's what I say, good morning. Because the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, and not let the fear mongerers, the media, the politicians, people who have something to gain, big tech, they're all in it for the money, the money, the power, right? I say money and power be damned. I don't care about any of that stuff anymore. Like I said, I've got a rich history. Watch some of my other videos and where I get on anecdotes and storytelling. I just briefly touched on some of those ethnic things as a little story, but nah, people don't get it, man. It's like there's nothing more beautiful than diversity, cultural diversity, and there is no, everything they're doing to create division and fear, and then homogenize society, is they're trying to pit people against each other. They're trying to recreate almost, if not decades old, 50-year-old, 100-year-old, 200-year-olds, or 150-year-old, some kind of ethnic or, racial, divisions and hatreds. There's prodding. It's like sticking in a hornet's nest with a stick. And it's like, sure, there are people out there that, there's always going to be, oddballs, psychos, just like there's always going to be megalomaniacs and but I'll tell you right now, I believe personally that there are more megalomaniacs, more narcissistic sociopaths and psychopaths involved in the corporatocracy that want to create all these dictates and fearmonger and control us and make us into cattle on their tax and consumerism farms than there are any of these so-called hate people. right? You know, in other words, the narcissistic sociopaths and the psychopaths and the megalomaniacs way outnumber any of that. And they're just trying to create and foment fear and violence among the masses. And what you have to do is resist that. You have to laugh at them, you know, just laugh at them and say, no, I'm not, you know, homie, don't play that. Right? So I say, you have no right to say, homie, don't play that. Yeah, I do. That was part of my culture when I grew up. You know, I watched, it was from In Living Color. I watched that show, you know, because at that point, that's what we did. You see, you know, multiculturalism. We didn't care about, you know, we all celebrated people's cultures and the diversity, and it made life, like, you know, for lack of a better word, more colorful, right? And more fun, you know? So don't buy into this nonsense. Don't get caught up in politics. Politics isn't pop culture. Art is pop culture. Music is pop culture. All right? You know, foods, you know, these ethnic celebrations, that's culture. Dance is culture. You see? And they're trying to push everyone into some kind of thing so they can control, so that this couple of thousand people, right, can have everyone bowing and curtsying to my lord and my lady. You know, oh, Mr. President, Senator, Congresswoman. The heck with that. They're just people. They got a job. They take money out of our paychecks so they can live. And then they turn around and screw us over. Then they take money from, you know, from corporations who really run the world and do the complete opposite in some way to screw us over. And then meanwhile, the media is just in this whole thing, just like, you know, pitting people against each other and all this craziness. Anyway, I'm going to end this within the next couple minutes. But that's what I'm trying to get across. And that's what I'm going to try to focus, you know, these are the themes that, you know, I'm going to be addressing. And please subscribe to this thing, hit that little bell, like it. All right. Share it with people. Listen to my songs, buy my book. All right. Get a t-shirt that says everything you know is wrong and you don't know what you don't know, or my Irish shirt, because St. Patrick's Day is coming up. And there's a couple other things, you know, like then what with the question mark, right? That you can put in people's face, you know, or the everything you know is wrong with the, you know, the classic Tony Caravan, you know, face thing, you know. Get into it. All right. And we'll explore all this stuff. The show will become a little more, you know, technically improved, you know, as I go through this and as I get support from folks like you. But in the meantime, and whether or not how technically better it gets, all right, the idea is it's about the content. And the content is the truth. And that's one thing I will guarantee to you. I will always present to you the truth. All right? I am not going to pass any rumors, hearsay. All right? I'm not going to fearmonger. Okay? If I talk about the weather things, or if I tell you something about a windmill, it's based on me fact checking through multiple sources that it really occurred, and not through fact checkers. Remember, I've talked about those before. What they call fact checkers now on the internet are not fact checkers, they're propagandists. Because if you ever noticed and you look and see who funds that a particular, there's multiple fact checking groups now. They call themselves fact checkers. And if you look who funds the various fact checking organizations, you will find that their so-called fact checking usually supports one or more of the people sponsoring them. It's the same as within academia and in universities, that the funding, the people giving the most money to that university, right, are the ones that have the most influence on what that university is putting out. It's the same with the same way it works with papers, publishing papers in journals and things like that. You have to and the FDA and it just goes down the list. And so the idea is that no, you're never going to. That's why I say I'm not monetized. I'm telling you, you can read my book because I talk about this and the interesting concepts in here of the mind. That's what Codex is like a mind, adventure for your mind is what that is. Get to just kind of like getting you thinking differently. It's not like a book of learning as a particular thing. It's an idea. It's an exercise in a flow of consciousness and to kind of shake up your brain so that when you watch this show, you're kind of, I jumbled you up a little bit so that your mind's opening more. You're free thinker. It's the same with my music. If you listen to the lyrics, you may not like the tune, but listen to the lyrics. The poetry of it. That's why I call it beat poetry instead of songs. They're not, I call it beat poetry because it's the lyrics is what it's about. And my t-shirts are statements. And my cat is down here. Well, he doesn't want to come up. I was going to pick him up. So yeah, that's the takeaway from today is that the same thing as usual, but just in a broader sense that remember, I just can't. Pop culture, politics as pop culture is wrong. And that cultural diversity is a beautiful thing. And that one particular group or two particular groups trying to force their culture onto everyone else or their ideology or homogenize the entire society into one thing is not what we're about as human beings. We need to celebrate our differences, all right, and share them. That's culture. See, that's culture, right? So, because what happens is if they continue down this path, which they are, that's their intention, then there will be no diversity. There will be no multicultural things to, experience in this country or in this world. Western civilization has had its share of flaws. There's no doubt about it, right? But the idea is, I'm just giving my farewell, thanks for watching thing. But remember, we can't live in the past, and you're not responsible for anything in the past. All right? It's not you. You're not responsible for your ancestors. You're not responsible for your own parents unless you aided and abetted them, in some kind of illegal activity. No, just be yourself. Be a good person. Just, be whatever. But understand that Western civilization has fallen. These understand that we are living in a corporatocracy. And understand that the United States of America no longer exists because it's not united. So there is this geographic collection, of what they call states with these governors, but the governors are against each other. And then the people within those states, even though there's a governor of some ideology, they're, it's like in California, they just got 1.5 million. They're trying to recall the governor of California. But that state is, but he was elected in that state, and his state, is supposedly what, a blue state or whatever, So even within these so-called states and these governors, in other words, the country's not united. It's just a collection of territories now that have governors and senators and congress people, but they all despise and hate each other, it seems. I mean, there's really the rhetoric you hear on the media, and when these people go on media is hateful. It's not like, oh, we disagree with this kind of this particular policy, or we think that maybe this would be a better idea to do this. No, they're not doing that. It's hatred. And so then within those states, within this territory, you have all these things. And then you can take this down into, counties, municipalities and whatnot. And there's all this division. And amidst all this, there seems to be this overreaching corporatocracy, big tech bureaucracy that's coming mostly from Europe, but it's infected the US, that are pulling the strings of all these politicians and bureaucrats and CEOs and corporate heads and stuff like that are working for this one world government, this crazy idea of a homogenized world where you will own nothing and be happy, but they'll own everything. See? And they'll be the Lord, my Lord and my lady, your Highness, right? And they could take your land away from you anytime you want to, or say, hey, you can't grow stuff on your thing. You can't do this. You can't do that. You got to wear 17 masks. This thing will never end. Oh, that's over. COVID's over, but now there's a new, you got to wear a mask because we don't want you passing germs. Just the common cold. We got to get rid of the common cold is the new the new nightmare. Right. Or something else. They treat it like it's a flesh-eating disease, because that's what we're being treated like, fear-mongering. So there's nothing you could do about that. But so what we will explore is living in a corporatocracy, and how to be free, as free as you can and as happy as you can, and how to preserve your culture, and to understand that it's okay to have a culture, right? And that today is Mardi Gras, all right? And so I don't know what's going to happen in New Orleans, with lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. I've been to Mardi Gras. I've been down there. It was great. It was fun, a lot of fun. And that's a celebration of culture, and a beautiful celebration of culture. And so maybe that all ties in, the idea. So happy Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. Tomorrow's Ash Wednesday. That's why the Lent begins for those who, for Catholics and those that fast leading up to Easter, whether they're Orthodox or not, or just were raised that way and continue to do it. Some people do it just for the sake of losing a few pounds or whatever. But yeah, today is Fat Tuesday. So Mardi Gras. So enjoy yourself today. Enjoy the culture of that, a tradition. And remember, and remember that, and that's what we're trying to save here. We probably are not going to be able to save the Constitution or the country as we knew it. Western civilization is gone already. I mean, you haven't been paying attention to what's happening in Europe and everywhere else. And if you watch the news media and stuff, they're not explaining this to you. But that doesn't mean that we can't preserve our culture. We can't preserve our, the beautiful things that make human existence life worth living. Human kindness, sharing, happiness, love, romance, all the things they want to take away from us. See, we don't have to hate, right? We don't have to listen to their fear monger. We don't have to be afraid. Those things are just going to make you sick. They're just going to stress you out. And that's what their goal is. It's a power play to control and manipulate you. And so, happy Mardi Gras. Celebrate the day. Have fun. Celebrate the culture. And if it's not your culture, it doesn't matter. There'll be another holiday that comes up. And celebrate that. Right? Because that's what we are. We're human beings on a planet, and we're different people. But we also are the same people at the same time. But those cultural differences, which even the word differences isn't even a good word, the idea of various cultures are things that make life like just more enjoyable and things to look forward to. It's like different holidays, right? Who cares? There's like these people that hate certain holidays because they despise this. It's like, who cares? If you don't hate Christmas because you've got a problem with it. Don't hate Easter because you have a problem with it. Don't hate Hanukkah because you have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Just, go with the flow. Have an Easter egg, a peanut butter cup, peanut butter bunny or something. Give a friend a gift on Christmas. Hanukkah, give a gift out for a couple of days. Spin the top, light a candle. Mardi Gras, have a drink, wear some beads, show us your. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. And the world's changing. And just because we happen to be living in a time when we're witnessing the end of a Western civilization, the fall of an empire, so to speak, it's not the end of the world. The end of the world is a topic we'll deal with later on. That's another thing. But that's far too soon, or not too soon, but that's too much of a diversion right now to get into. We'll be touching on some topics like that later too. Anyway, all the best, and like it says,
Good morning.
Have a good morning, a great Mardi Gras. I hope you have a great week. I'll probably be broadcasting all this week. I may do a TGI Friday thing. I'm not sure. Again, this week. We'll see how it goes. So take care. Peace. Have fun.